You're listening to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures with Kristin and Polly, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures with Kristin and Polly. We are just two mystical moms sharing our spiritual journey with you. First and foremost, call-in number 323-203-0815. If you have any questions about wellness, health, a psychic adventure, some truth, or just want to talk to us, call on in. We'd love to hear from you. When Polly and I decided to start this little broadcast, our big motivator was, hey, we have been in the trenches of motherhood. I'm probably still there. Polly's kids are a little bit older. But there's trenches nonetheless in every stage. And our thought is, it's a spiritual journey, but sometimes that's not as mainstream as it should be when you're in the trenches of motherhood. So the big goal is, hey, let's bring light to it. Let's all acknowledge that we are here together as mystical and spiritual as we can be, and kind of entertain you along the way on this fantastic journey. Hi there, Polly.
Hi, Kristin. Thank you so much. And it's funny that we say wellness because, as you know, I barely made it to this place in time. But I also have some bruising on my chin. But that's for another day. Another day, another story. But thank you so much for that intro. And yeah, it's about, I think we wanted to do this, and we acknowledge that the sound might not be great. We're working on that. So next week we might completely blow your socks off with some good sounds.
Brace yourself, people.
Yes, brace yourself. And also send us suggestions. We're also open to that. But yeah, spirituality, it definitely in as being a parent in all relationships, including our relationship with self. It's relationships. But my God, you learn a lot with children, raising children. I mean, now my children, two of them are really adults and one of them is almost an adult. But you learn so much, so many valuable lessons about that. And I'm writing about the moon, so it's like my mind is going off to the moon.
Ooh, I love that.
I know. So we'll have to talk about that. We got to figure out when's the next full moon. Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but you better believe I'm interested.
Yeah, I am too. Because there's something about the moon coming through. Okay, so I'm a psychic. Kristin is amazingly intuitive, and I'll say she's a psychic. Maybe she's doesn't want to come out of the closet yet. I think that's what
I'm working on it.
She is working on it. But okay, should we share about miracles? Is that what we're doing today?
Yes. Okay, I love a good miracle story. So, I have 3 kids. One of my children, now this is going to sound like a sad story, but stick with me because it ends fantastically. My oldest, who's 17 now, when she was 1, she burnt her hands on the front of a fireplace. And John and I, my husband and I, were beside ourselves. We couldn't even, when you get hurt, somehow you're able to navigate that. But as a new parent, she's our only kid. She's 1 year old. She's burnt her hands. We couldn't even figure out what to do. Went to the ER. And honestly, that was as fantastic as an ER is. They still weren't able to provide us with a plan. It happened on the weekend. Just come back, see your primary care. And we didn't know what to do. And finally, with a million Google searches, we came upon Shriner's burn unit. Shriner's a hospital for kids. Now, it is, in fact, difficult to get an appointment at Shriner's without a medical referral or actually being sponsored by a Shriner. So my husband called. It's Sunday, which, they're not open on Sunday, but we call anyway. We'll leave a message, something like that. John calls frantic. We're emotional. We just need some help here. And he talks with Tony. And he was on speakerphone. Tony was the happiest guy ever. And it really... when he's talking to Tony's like, yeah, we'll get you in. Here's your appointment time. You know how to get here. Here's where you park. You guys are going to be fine. We do this all the time. Just a very comforting individual. And I thought, what a fantastic professional to answer the phone. Fast forward to the appointment. Just 2 days later, we get there. We walk in. I got a diaper bag. We got a kid. She's upset. We're upset. we check in, and the person we're checking in with, my husband's like, well, we made the appointment with Tony. And the gal was like, yeah, I see you on the books, but we don't have anyone named Tony who works here. And it was just this mystery. We were on the books, everything was set up, but no one could really figure out like how we got in because this appointment didn't exist. And then suddenly it did. We do the appointment, we get a plan in place, how we're going to help her out, what the surgery is going to be. And we finally felt like we could take a breath. Like, oh my gosh, there's a sense of peace and this is going to be okay. We get home and there's a big package waiting for us from John's grandma. We open it up. Right on top is this lovely card, and in it is this medal. And it has, I wish I could tell you the exact phrase, but a prayer of comfort and the little medal of St. Anthony. And I immediately looked at John. I was like, oh my God, Tony, St. Anthony. And we just fell apart there. But I thought, what? That kind of brought it full circle for me. Like somehow, miraculously, we were able to get this appointment, Tony, Anthony, and it just felt so peaceful and good. So a sad situation, and then you know deep in your heart, I'm being looked out for, like I'm being taken care of.
I love that story. That is that's so sweet, and that's the stuff that I think everybody has those experiences, whether they recognize them or not. But I feel like, you know, the angels sometimes, okay, that wasn't just like a little nudge. That was like, okay, I'm coming in. We're going to like really move some things to make this work. I mean, how cool is that? That's awesome. I love that story.
And we needed something that obvious because we were just a mess. So finally we were like, yes, all is going to be well in this adventure.
So did you pray? Were you like a person that prayed or meditated or anything like that? Then?
Yeah, I was very prayerful. And it was a prayer of desperation. Like, dear God, please fix this. I don't even know what specifically to ask for. Just take this situation, make her better, give us some strength, fix it. Yeah.
Love it. Do you feel like she's kind of touched by an angel as she moves through life?
Oh, she's touched by something. No, I do actually. I feel like she gets in her own way as teenagers do, but when she has a moment, she's very guided and very lucky. Yeah.
I love that. You know what's funny is this is like we're always going to go off subject, but you're like, you know, we got to Shriners and they, you know, there wasn't an appointment, but then they found us, whatever. It's a little bit different than like last time I flew with American Airlines, which I won't fly with anymore, where I get there, I have my reservation, but they're like, no, there's not a seat for you. And no, you won't be flying. It's like the opposite.
You know what? So Polly and I have talked about this, like traveling. And yes, we're off topic, but maybe we've just found a new topic here, traveling. Traveling can be so stressful. If you do it with kids, if you do it by yourself. So I have now taken on my new habit of I set an intention for my travel. And in my mind, I picture the full day. Like I get up on time. I have this amazingly smooth trip to the airport. I couldn't have possibly checked my bag and got my boarding pass quicker. I get through security like a breeze. I finally get to the gate. I'm first on the plane. I get the seat with nobody next to me. I like have this amazing picture of the perfect travel day in my head. And I got to tell you, now I really look forward to traveling. It's been so smooth since I started doing that. Now I'm taking a trip soon, so let's test this theory, shall we?
Well, manifesting, I mean, that's a great way. I mean, manifesting, taking control as much, because listen, how much control do we really have? But taking control of our potential, taking control of what we do want instead of getting the leftovers. Okay, but now I'm going to talk to you. This isn't really a miracle that I'm going to share. It's a psychic adventure.
Oh, I'm here for those.
Right? I mean, what else? Okay, so I had been living, I lived in Alaska for a very long time. And I'm not a real fan of the cold. And so eventually...
Which had to be that challenging.
Yeah, the cold or the dark. Like both of those are real challenges for me. And I was there... over 18 years. Anyhow, so I migrated south to Arizona and my happy place. Although I love California too, but anyhow, I have my happy little place here. And I was contacted to take part in they wanted a medium though. And so take part in a TV show. and like a reality TV show, but they wanted a medium. And so I thought, okay, then I'll do mediumship. I'm going to be reaching out to the dead. And I never want to know, like, whoever I'm going to work with, I don't want to know anything about them because I don't like logic. And it goes back to me being lazy. Like, I really, like, I just like to allow things to come to me and not like, that's why astrology is not my favorite, because you have to like do so much work. But anyhow, so I thought it was mediumship, flew to Alaska, and they took me out to like this, what they call an island. I don't know if it's like truly an island, but anyhow, so out in rural Alaska by helicopter. And it was cold, but it was May. I think it was May, but there was still a crap load of snow and it was cold. So I'm out there and it's just a bunch of men. And I guess that there had been, and I knew nothing about where I was going, but I guess there had been, like, the story goes that there had been people that were killed there, like multiple killings. And so some people believed, which I didn't know, that in Alaska, there's like the Native Alaskans believe that there's like a Bigfoot, that comes out of the sky or something. They don't call it anyhow. I didn't know this until I did the show, that it's like a Bigfoot basically that comes out of the sky. I think it's similar to like Skin Ranch that's in Utah. They have the same thought process. Like there's a portal that this Bigfoot thing can come down. But I didn't know any of this. And so they were like, okay, so you land, and they're like, I guess they did tell me that there had been some murders or something. So they're like, okay, we want you to take us to, tell us what you pick, or pick the way where we're going or whatever. And so I immediately went to the part of the island where stuff has happened. Like, that was like really easy for me to just like tromp that way. And there's cameras rolling and stuff. But it was really interesting because one of the guys was, if I wasn't on air, I would call him a swear word, but I won't. But he was, he was like a 3-year-old. He was obnoxious. But anyhow, so we tromp on down the beach, and so I knew exactly where it was. And the other thing that was interesting is, even going to a specific rock. Like, there was a specific rock that had certain energy. But and I was picking stuff up, picking stuff up about what has happened there. But the weird thing is, before I went there, because I thought it was mediumship, I was picking up on things like there had been 2 brothers, there had been a split. So I was picking up on human stuff that had happened. And that's totally where my mind was. Like, I even saw what they looked like in my mind. And I saw like a river, like this creek, and how it was split. Like, there were 2 camps. Anyhow, felt like there was some gambling and stuff. So it was more like the human stuff that I had been picking up. But the TV show really wanted to know about Bigfoot. They wanted me to be picking up the Bigfoot energy, which was interesting. And I will say that I definitely felt stuff on the island. Like, it's not a place that I would want to hang out.
Okay, so it wasn't like a happy vibe.
No, and there were areas that didn't feel as good. But that just goes to show that, and FYI, I've never watched the show.
Oh my gosh.
I've never watched it. But my children do love to take little snippets of it and send it to me because they think it's so funny.
As kids do.
As they do. Yeah. So anyhow, that was interesting, and you definitely can pick up. I guess the moral of that story is you can definitely pick up the energy of events.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if something, like in a church, you feel things, in a bar, you feel things. So you pick up the energy of events, I guess, is the kind of like Jerome that we talked about last.
Yes.
It was picking up the energy of events.
You know what's interesting? Speaking of picking up the energy of events, there have been a handful of times in my life where you know that feeling like if you're on a boat and then you get off on a dock and you're kind of like, everything feels just wibbly, like you're not going to fall down, you're not going to, anything, but it's just a weird, unstable feeling. So I get that feeling when I'm around, like, well, here's the story. My dad used to work, like, he retired, and then as his second job, handyman, he worked at this opera house that was built at like the turn of the century. And in the back of it, like a theater. And in the back of it, there was a weird hallway that went to another building. And so he, being the handyman, was like, "Oh, here, let's do a backstage tour." So I went with him, and we're walking down this hallway, and I feel like the floor is shaky. It's like Opry House. So I asked him, I was like, "Dad, what is up here?" I even put my hands on the hallway. It was a narrow hallway to navigate. I said, "What goes on back in this room?" And he was like, "Well, this is where they hold the AA meetings for this town." And I was like, "Oh." And I said, "Has it always been here?" And he goes, "No, it used to be a morgue."
Oh, I love that.
That's the information. And so I felt wiggly, and I kind of held on to that feeling. And it was a feeling I had known before when I was little, but I couldn't quite remember the instances. And another time we went on a tour, not a formal tour, like my family, we were back for a funeral in southern Missouri. And just me and my cousins and a couple aunts and uncles were just walked around, and we're like, "Well, here's where great grandma used to live." And it's a very small town. So it's not like we were on a massive walk. And we walked by one house, and it was old, not quite abandoned, but everyone's curious. And so they start going up to peek in the windows. We're peeping Toms in my family. And I couldn't go up. I was like, I feel like the ground is it's unsettling. And so I couldn't go up, and I just knew, like, I didn't go through the history, but I was like, something happened here, or maybe this is an old, like, funeral home, because typically they do that a lot where in that neighborhood is big houses will be converted into random zone things. So that's always been, like, I feel that vibe when there's been a lot of death.
Yes. And and that's the thing to notice is it's not just like in rooms and buildings, it's like our earth, right? Like, I do believe like wind and water can shift things. They're so good for movement. But imagine this, Kristin. Like, imagine, like, this is a blog coming up, by the way. But just since we're talking about it, but imagine like if you go to work every day and you're sitting like and you're immersing yourself in that energy every day, how unsettling it is, and how it really will begin to like shift things within you.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, even if you're not aware of it.
Oh, completely. And then that trickles on into like, it's like that pebble in the pond where the waves just keep trickling, and it builds out, and you take it with you wherever you go.
Yeah. I mean, my example of the blog, just because I think it's important for people to really get what it means, like if you are in the energy or spending time with people, like how their energy really affects you. So it's kind of like if you go, like, say you're going to be conversing with somebody that is hard of hearing. Well, you automatically adjust your communication style. You speak slower, you speak louder, and you adjust your communication style. But over time, right, the more time you spend with them, then it starts affecting, like, you might even carry that on into other conversations, right? Or say you meet somebody and you're gonna go with them, go on a hike with them, and they're running, and so you're like, oh God, I've got to run to keep up with them.
Yes.
And over time, it's like, okay, you're either running to keep up with them, and if you are, it's not sustainable. And right. And so it's like all this stuff that we put these connections that we make really we take out of it. It really affects us like so much more than we give it credit for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. And it's almost so innate in us to adapt. Like
yes.
And we try to just like fit in, and usually it's trial and error. Like, okay, well, how fast can I run? How long can I keep up until it's obvious the path? This is
and each of us have the potential for all of it, right? Like, each of us have the potential to be like this incredible loving person and to gravitate towards those people. But each of us also have some feistiness, right? that will gravitate towards, maybe a lesson to be learned, or gravitate towards, right? Like maybe that's the reason why we gravitate towards certain things. But if we stay in it, that's the kicker.
Totally. And it's all about the intention too. Like what am I intending? What are my goals here? I'm moving with a little bit more purpose.
Yeah, because there's somebody that I had a call with last week, and she felt like we are completely off topic, but we're just gonna roll with it.
You know what?
But
Nobody knows the actual topic, so I feel like, hey, here we go.
She felt like, okay, and she's young, but she felt like she met her partner, like her life partner. Like this is it. Like she's young. But anyhow, she's like, yeah, there was this instant connection. And I'm like seeing this connection that she had with this person. And it's literally like, I can see how she felt like this person lit up, like there was a magnet for them. But here's the thing, that person carried so much of the habits of her father.
Oh,
So
no,
much of the kind of, there was some unhealthy emotional stuff. This person carried that same magnet. And so he felt like home.
See, that's the thing. Then it becomes more like, that's not really what I want. That's just what I know.
Yeah, but it felt like it felt that connection because she knew that connection.
Wow.
And but I think we do that so often, and I think that's why it's so important to be self-aware and really think about, okay, I've got all these possibilities. I've got all these pieces in me. What do I want to connect with? Do I want to connect with the miracles?
Yeah.
Or do I want to connect, God, do I have to have another life lesson?
Right. Yet another one. I learned this already. Exactly. And then when we think about like how big can this go, and where our limiting beliefs kind of cap things off, and we're like, well, I guess I'll have this because it's what I know. It feels like home.
Yeah.
But hey, there might be something bigger and better out there if you can just trust a little bit.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, I think that's the thing, is like the need for faith in this is like, we know what we know, right? And we have to be okay with going beyond what we know. We have to be okay with, right? Like trusting that there is more.
Yes.
And that's hard.
Oh, it's very hard, especially when life keeps like distracting you and pulling you back to what you know. Then you almost don't, you have to really carve out, I think, a place in your day to, and we can call it meditate, but to get real specific in what you want.
Yeah.
And revisit that throughout the day when things get and hit, what hits the fan, then you have to like bring it back and think, where am I headed today? Like what's going on? What's the purpose?
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, I remember the trenches of having 3 children in the house. Oh my God. And trying to do everything. And then the kids go to school, or maybe not all of them. And then they come back, they bring their day back into the house. And it's like, how do you stay, how do you remember who you are? Right. And how do you maintain like this ball of chaos moving forward? It's like, it's a lot, but
it's tricky.
It is tricky. And even the other day I was taking our youngest, he had to get his passport renewed. And here you make an appointment, which is nifty, but anyhow, I don't like to drive. I had to drive. It was like 14 degrees or something.
Oh.
So we get there, and I didn't know you had to have like a cashier's check for a certain amount. Like I thought I could just pay with a credit card, but no, you have to have a cashier's check. So they were like, so you can go out to Fry's around the corner or whatever. So it's like 100 and something. And I'm like, I'm going to walk. I'm not going to drive. But so then you're out for 40 minutes, 45 minutes with your unhappy 17-year-old behind you.
Yeah.
As you trek to get the money order. And it's just like, those little things, which really aren't that big. Right. But oh my God, was I, well, it wasn't just me that was cranky, but going through that and maintaining an attitude that will bring in positive things.
Yes. Now here's a question. So, and I was thinking about this, when I do my like manifest, intend for the perfect day of travel, but it applies to you and your son as well when you were out there trying to navigate the passport situation. What kind of protection do you do before you get out there in public? Because and I know it makes sense to do some sort of like energetic protection. I'm going to keep all the negative out, my positive in when you're navigating public places. But then also, like when your kids come home from school and they bring the ick with them, there's a certain amount of protection that you need from that as well. Do you do anything like really specific?
Well, when the kids were little, I just tried to like greet them with, well, I'm a horrible cook, so it wasn't like I was greeting them with with good food, but I tried to greet them with somewhat of a happy whatever. But then you bring in sports and like having to get in the car and shuffle them around and everything. So there is always a little chaos. And here's the thing, like I dreaded this passport thing. I totally dreaded it. And so here we are. And then when I used to travel, like with all the family, I know you've heard this. I would buy my tickets separate from them because then I would get upgraded to first class and they wouldn't upgrade like 4 people at first class. So they'd all sit in the back and I'd be upgraded to first class.
Oh,
so I did that for years. That's what I manifested, Kristen.
Oh my God. I felt like I was doing travel right, but I didn't know this #pro tip.
Yeah, because if you do like if you always fly the same airline, that was my thing. Is like, I'm going to do mine separate because I have enough miles because we flew a lot. And then put them in the back. They're not going to upgrade all of them.
No.
But they will upgrade Polly Wirum.
I heard the story from the person that sat in front of your kids.
Well, my husband was always back with them.
Oh, that's perfect. That's even better. So you would book you separate from all of them. Oh man,
I was in a separate reservation. So that is manifesting on both a strategical level, and a spiritual level.
Absolutely. If you know what, listeners, if you have any ideas or questions about more pro tips, give us a call. 323-203-0815. Polly will let you know all her travel secrets.
Well, and look, this is all supposed to be fun anyhow.
Oh.
I mean, life is supposed to be fun. And so it's good to do some kind of zany things, right? Periodically. You've got to have something to remember.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's what gets us through. And I think that's part of our little broadcast here anyway. Like life is unedited. We are unedited.
Yes.
You can't laugh at yourself. What can you laugh at?
True enough.
This is just, it's just like.
Okay, you'll appreciate this. When I was doing a call yesterday, like a coaching client, and she saw the bruises on my face, but then she's like, I move my arms around all the time, but she's like, oh my God, did you fall? Because I thought I saw some bruises on your arms also. And I'm like, no, I didn't. This was just like a beauty routine. It's just that the beauty hasn't set in yet. Give it a week and the beauty will be there.
It's all good things are worth the wait, I think.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Well, okay, so you shared your miracle. I shared my Bigfoot story. Oh, but I will tell you this other thing that was kind of cool. Maybe 10 years ago, I lose track of time, but we went to Kauai and I signed up for it was going to like spiritual places on the island. And like also tied to spiritual places on the island, but also like I think it was like ancient, like so places like that the ancient Hawaiians used also. So I was like, okay, this will be very cool. And I will tell you this, Kristen. So we had to drive because it was like in different parts of Kauai. And
did your whole family go or just you?
No, just Joan and I did. Okay. So here's the piece. So some of it, this is the weird thing, is some of the places were like out in public. And then like one of them was almost like in a driveway between different houses. But that one was probably the most powerful. Like I touched it and it almost knocked me down on the ground. It was so powerful. The rock was. Yeah, and then there was another area that was like kind of in a park that unless you knew to look for it, you wouldn't even see what was there.
Wow.
And then a beach area that is also well known. Like a lot of spiritual people went to that specific area for it was like a clearing and a cleansing and a connecting with the gods. And that was very cool
They were
because
historic areas?
what oh yeah, but they weren't public knowledge.
That's crazy.
And especially that one that was just like this rock. I mean, unless you knew, it was just like a rock practically in a driveway. And it was so powerful, Kristen, like touching it, like it was like you could feel the energy. It
Really?
was so powerful. Oh, and then here's the other thing is the lady that took us around, she was really into like her belief system was like all of the places that she took me was very connected to the Lemurians.
Oh. So
Yeah,
it
there was
guided. You literally had a tour guide.
yeah. But then, okay, so the experience was cool. Like the guide was the going to the different places was cool. And but then I did like a private. So this is the part where it went off rails. So I did a private session with her. It was like supposed to be like some, which I had, I still have whatever. Even before it, I had mixed feelings about it. But it was like a quote unquote like soul retrieval type thing, like any place that you like left your soul out there, which we could talk about that at another show. But so I did that, and she didn't have like her own studio space, so she wanted to come to like your room or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm here with my husband, and so I don't want to have to boot him out of the room to have this soul retrieval. So she's like. So she brought me to, she found like this little spa place, hotter than heck. It wasn't really a spa, but anyhow. So we go in there, and the neighbors were cranking out like this music that was so loud. And I think I probably paid like $800 for this or some, I almost swore again, insane amount, like $800 to retrieve my soul. And the music from the neighbors was so loud, like there's no way I can concentrate on what I need to concentrate to bring my soul back in. It was so crazy, but I did it. And
now, did you feel different afterwards? Were you like, oh yeah, I forgot I left part of my soul over there. I'm so glad.
Well, here's the thing. Like I don't think that I don't think our soul gets split up per se. Like I think our soul is too smart for that. Do I believe that we have all these different experiences and we put our attention in a million different places? Yes, I believe in that. But I don't believe our soul splits because I just don't believe that. But everybody's going to have different beliefs. But I do believe that some of our energy is elsewhere because I believe that everything's happening at once. I believe that all the lives that I've experienced, all the possibilities is happening now. And so that I do believe, but I don't believe my soul is, fractured.
Yeah. So I love what you said. Our souls are too smart for that. I love that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's because our souls are so smart, Kristen.
I like what you did there. So I, once upon a time, had a psychic adventure where I met with a practitioner, and I don't even know what to call her other than that. And her specialty was looking at your energy and seeing where in your physical body anything that shouldn't be there had lodged, and then she would free it. So she did that to me, and then she gives you like a full-blown report afterwards.
Yeah.
And essentially what had happened is there were times in my life, like for example, once was when I was in the hospital getting my tonsils out. Mm-hmm. When the theory is your barriers are down and you are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And something had latched onto me. And I'm saying latched onto me. That's not the words that she used. It wasn't scary. It was just like, it was cleaning out anything that might be like holding you back. And I don't know that I felt markedly different afterward, but it was one of those things where you're like, well, I'm glad I had that done. But that was interesting to me because what I did just to see if I felt like she was legit afterwards is I compared the timeline of, and there were like 5 instances where she pinpointed like a time in my life, and she said the age that I was. So it wasn't like she did back in 1980. She was like, when you were 5, this is what. And I there was only, I think, one where I couldn't quite remember exactly what was going on in my chapter of life at that time. But everything else, like once was when I had just moved from some place to another place and I was stressed. Once was the tonsils out. Once was when I was having a baby, like all substantial things.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think that there are so many, I mean, okay, let me just say this. The word healer is so overused, but there are so many different ways for us to have self-care, right?
Yes.
So whether it's, doing the quote unquote soul retrieval or doing like what you did, I think it's important. Well, I think it's a valid way to explore our wellness. I guess maybe that's the way to do it. It's a valid way to explore our wellness, which I mean, and we have much more control over that versus some of the medical stuff, right?
For sure. Yeah. And it's all related. Like there's benefit in all modalities of healing, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to find, like, to be honest, I would love to find like a healer around here, like in Arizona, like somebody that I really am like, okay, yeah, I totally trust this person. And just to like release I almost swore again, all the effing baggage. Yeah. Like I would love to just be like, yes, please take it away.
And you're semi-close to Sedona. This shouldn't be that hard for you to find. You're in like the healer spiritual mecca.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think, okay, is it my problem? Because am I like this person is like, okay, they have to prove themselves, or that I have to like, how do I know who I feel really? I have to have a comfort level with them.
Yeah. Well, you're going to trust, because it's a very vulnerable thing. Like that's why if I'm getting a reading or anything, it's with you. Like I trust you. I have a comfort level. I'm cool with you jumping in my energy and
that's the piece is like, who do you want to share your energy with? It's a big deal. I mean, okay, and then let's just talk about this. Like, okay, so I'm a life coach and do psychic stuff. And so, on the outside, people would think, well, and I meditate, pray, all that stuff. But, I still, it doesn't mean that I don't have, as I said, the effing baggage or whatever, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not in the process of releasing, in the process of a transformation, because we all are.
Yes, because that's your human experience. Like we're here, we're going through it, and yes, you are connected. Some of us are more connected and able to provide guidance to others, but still you have to honor your own path here.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God. Wouldn't it be great if we could be like, oh yeah, pray, meditate, all's good. Yeah. But we still have the family. We still have the job. We still have the whatever, the passport, getting booted off the airline. Yeah. We still have that. And being able to not carry, not grab onto that energy and hold it with us.
Right. Which is another thing to think about when you do, as we do, when you do reach out to someone for like a reading or a healing or something, expect that person isn't perfect.
That's so good. I love that.
But they're not, as an individual, going to be elevated to perfection in any
manner. Yeah, I love that. You know what's funny? Okay, so I haven't gone for a while, but I've gone like 5 times, I think, to Miraval in Tucson. So it's like this mecca, like spa, spiritual place. The spa treatments are awesome. So I did sign up, and that's how I met our crystal guru. That's where I met her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And I love her. So, and I love going. I mean, anyhow, the place is pretty nice. the spa's great. So I signed up once for this thing. The guy's no longer there, but it's like, it's a healing. I think he wasn't Native American, but he liked to grab hold of some of the Native American practices. For example, throughout the healing, I was hit with an owl's wing.
As one does.
So there were some different experiences, but it was good. And then he was like, go get in the water, don't do anything, go directly to the water after this. And so, of course, I went directly to the water. It was a good experience. But you know what's funny? The guru, the crystal guru that I love, she was like, because he called himself doctor, whatever. And so she's like, oh no, he was raised in Brooklyn.
Oh,
right. She's like, it was pretty funny. But I still thought that, my experience with him, it wasn't like I would be like, okay, this, I would give it a 6.
yeah.
It was interesting getting hit with the owl's wing. And I think there might have been some hot stones or some crystals or something. I can't remember.
The owl's wing is what does it for me. That's a unique technique. Yeah.
I think there was some calling. I think there was some calling in of our brother Al. I'm pretty sure there was some singing and some calling. Yeah. But the funny thing is like, so I had that years ago, and then for our crystal guru to say, "Oh, come on, he's from Brooklyn," and
I love that.
I do love that too. Okay, should we pull a card for? Well, yeah. Do you have a question? Do you personally have a question?
Oh, in my life?
Yeah.
I would love guidance on parenting.
Oh gosh.
So
Wait.
If anything, this will be entertaining.
Can't we all have advice on parenting and relationships?
Right?
Okay.
Sold.
We all learn from our children.
Boy, I'm learning so much as a mom.
We do. I remember the stage that you're in right now was the most challenging, for sure. It was so, like the one I told you, the one child that, because I always wanted to believe that what they were saying was true. Having major keggers, well, I don't know if they're keggers, but whatever, raging parties. And at a cabin, like we went down there, it was so clean, like it was spotless. So we're like, of course nothing happened here. Until you looked behind the door and there was a hole in the wall. So she was really good about cleaning up.
See, and that's what I respect. If you're going to do it up and really go for it and break all the rules, then also be a professional and fix it. Call it through, clean it all up, and don't let me know anything. If you're going to be as offensive enough to have the shenanigans, then be responsible enough to clean it up so well that I know nothing.
I wanted to believe. And then the other time, there was the crazy party that wasn't completely her fault. They got out of hand. But our security cameras show, the funny thing is our security cameras did show some of the happenings, like how it all unfolded. For example, this is actually kind of funny. The one of the person who was like a track star and a cross country star who has now been in the Olympics, but he was like leaping over the shrubbery with his alcohol bags. And so we had that on camera.
Which is kind of an impressive feat.
Yeah, but she was like saying, oh no, making chocolate chip cookies, going to bed early, which, whatever. We found out the truth with the video. Okay, so here's your thing. The magician impulse. Well, yeah, it is. So this is like, can you see? Oh, there, impulse. Yeah. So it's all about managing. I think the impulse thing is key for you. It's like to remember that you have the tools and don't go down that impulsive path. That impulsive path of restructuring, of like feeling like you need to solve, create, disengage. Mm-hmm. Don't go down that impulsive path.
Okay, that's a good tip. because that's my path that I will not go down now.
Yeah. Well, does it make sense to you? Do you get impulsive?
Oh, yeah. For sure it does. It really does. Because it very much resonates.
Yeah. Because, oh my God, in marriage, in raising children, there's so much in work, there's so much in knee-jerk reaction, right? Like where you don't even think about what's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like reacting. But that kind of goes back to, in the very beginning when we're talking about if we're spending time with people in lower vibration, we begin to not even think about what we're doing, or right, because all of a sudden we're just acting in what feels normal. We're acting in lower vibrations. We're acting in, what has become normal.
For sure. You're right, because as humans, we are more chameleon than I think we would like to let on. And maybe it's a survival thing. Like you are, like you acclimate to whatever environment you're in.
Yeah.
And sometimes you dabble in an environment and you're like, no, this isn't for me. And it's not right. But sometimes you're forced to be in it, or you're just systematically surrounded by it. And parenting, you're forced to be in it.
Yeah. And look at how your reactions have changed from when they're 2
mm-hmm.
to when they're 17, right?
Yes.
Your knee-jerk reaction is completely different.
Completely. And my stimulus is different too. What I'm provided with.
Yes, absolutely. It's so interesting though. I think it's so interesting how we become a product of our environment without being aware of it, which is why it's so important, like what you said, to be mindful of your environment and what you want, to be mindful of that. What are you calling in? And in the same way, like how I used to make my reservations separate so I'd get upgraded, being mindful, and it's okay to like do some of that strategic planning.
Yes. Oh, completely. Yeah. And you have to.
You have to.
Yeah. Especially as the mom, if you're not taking care of you and getting some needs met and a little bit of pampering, you got nothing to give. Like you
got nothing to give.
Bad. Yeah.
The cup is empty. So it's a balance of like being really aware of like what's around you, but then also making those actions to create what you want. Like put a stake in the ground. This is what I want. I want that first class seat. I'm going to do something to get that first class seat.
Yes. Plant the seed, take the action step.
Yeah. It's so important to do that. And mostly, okay, it was a little break, but it's mostly like it was just fun and it was funny.
Yes.
Because,
do they talk about it now?
I don't even know that they're that aware of it. They talk about other stuff quite frequently.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, they like to send me pictures of that Bigfoot show.
You know what? I might jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, please don't. And then there's like one out there that they took it. I don't know who it was, but it was like an advertisement for it, and they did something weird they put a filter on it, and so it is so bad. It's so bad. And so that's the one that the kids send me because they think it is so funny seeing me look atrocious. And then the other thing is like, one of the kids in particular thinks it's very funny how I hopped out of the helicopter holding a Starbucks on this Alaska island. But
hey, you got to make an entrance somehow.
Well, and to be truthful, that's not too far off my life. I mean, again, it is on brand. I like my coffee. Okay. Should we pull a card for the week?
We should, but we are.
And oh my God,
we don't have time.
There's always tons of astrological stuff going on. But Friday, just so everybody knows, Friday is super powerful. What is Friday date-wise? Is it the 28th? Super powerful. Am I correct? 28th?
Yeah.
Okay, super powerful for connecting with the other side, for manifesting, it's so easy for you to make these really great changes, but it's important for you to align. Like I want you to imagine that your chakras are balanced, that you're aligned with your highest good, right? Like I was seeing this when I was hiking today. Like it's so easy for us to like, here's how our highest good could be, just this nice straight line. And then we kind of like, we're leaning off or right. And so just be really conscious of aligning with your highest good, and you're receiving the highest good. Friday is amazing for that. And so
I love that. Yes.
we're okay. So I got, we're supposed to end. We were supposed to end, Kristen. Wait, can we pull one card? Progress. We get the card of progress this week. Okay. Next week, we will be more mindful of time, but progress. This week is all about progress. So find out more about me at pollywirum.com. You can read my stuff on Your Tango and Eden Magazine. And Kristen at
GaragePilates.net is the website. Follow us both on Truth Wellness Psychic on Instagram, and we will talk to you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures with Kristen and Polly, only on LA Talk Radio.